Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, no matter where you're calling from. It's great to see you coming into today's session. I'm seeing a lot of new names in today's session. So if this is your first Waybook feature update, then welcome. It's great to see you here. And of course, there's many familiar names as well. So if you are a regular to this monthly session, then welcome back. It's good to see you once again. For those of you who haven't been here before, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Mike. I'm one of the co-founders here at Waybook. And this is one of my favorite sessions of the month where really we just run through the fundamental updates which are in your Waybook account and give you some hints and tips on how to really make the most of the features which are out in your account already. So we like to keep this as interactive as possible. So if you've got any thoughts or questions, please feel free to drop it into the chat or, of course, drop it into the Q&A. And perhaps we can kick off by anyone just saying hello and perhaps let me know where you're calling from as well. So, in today, we're going to be running through the feature updates which have been released in June and give you a little bit of a sense of what's coming up literally in the next couple of days and, of course, over the next few weeks and months. So, in today, we're going to be covering the core updates of how we can update our team profile details, what that is, where they live. We've made some amendments to Waybook Shots. So if you've not seen Shots before, then you'll see a slightly improved version of it. We also have the ability for you now to increase the confirmation steps or the ability to almost add an additional form of signing on confirmation steps, which we'll cover. And we also then have continued to optimize and tweak both polls and also news, which were some of the main features which we released at the very end of May, beginning of June. So let's jump straight in and have a little look at what we're talking about when we say update on our team profiles. So our team profiles are really the ability for us to provide additional team information across your business or your organization. What it essentially does is mean that wherever a contact card appears. So on a profile page, if you hover over someone in management, you can now add more relevant information. And the key thing here is that you can better manage your team profiles. So instead of your team members being responsible for always keeping their own profiles up to date, this can be connected directly with directory sync, or it can actually be managed by your admins. So the change in this month are some additional team profile fields, things like division, department, location, and also the ability to manage other people's profiles. Of course, if you have the right permissions. So if you're an admin or a manager, then you're able to manage those team permissions. Now, all of this is viewable within the profile fields, and I'll just cover a little bit of where that is, both in your profile view, your profile cards, and your org chart. And how you access this, well, I'm going to show you in just a moment, but it's viewable on all of those profile views that I mentioned, and also it's editable in your member setting page. So let's jump into this Waybook account now, and we'll get a little sense of what I'm talking about and where it exists. So in order to access your member settings, you go into organization and into members. Now we can pick any one of these members. Let's just click on Francesca here. And if you go to the settings, you'll see that we have the avatar. So we can actually upload an image for Francesca. That will be automatically pulled from your directory sync if you're connected in that way. But we can also add in Francesca's job title. So let's say she is our social media manager. And the department is marketing, the division, if you have divisions, and also you might have the kind of core location. So let's actually just say that, Francesca's in the US. So saving these fields, and of course they can be updated with other elements from either that individual, or of course you can connect that from other people. If we now go into any of the member settings, as we hover over a member, this is what I mean when I say a contact card. So what the purpose of this is in a snapshot, if you're managing multiple members and you're not exactly sure what they are, where they are, and perhaps what group they should be a part of to see what access, permissions, and control they should have, when you hover over it, you will be able to see them in there. Now, also, if you click on that user, you will always be able to get to that information, and that also appears across some of your reports. It also appears within your org chart as well. So if we go into the org chart, and we click, let's go into the member chart. And if I click on Mike, we can actually get the additional information that we've set within that. So I'm in the edit mode here, but if I go into the reader mode, you're basically then able to see that additional information, the department, the cost center, bits like that, which can also be edited from within your org chart as well. So that gives you a lot more control to basically make Waybook more contextually understandable from who the people are within the businesses, what they can see, and also enable other people to see other core pieces of information you want to share as well. So that's our first update today. If you haven't accessed any of the team profile settings, then you now know where to look. And if you haven't yet set up your org chart, that's also a great time to do that. You'll notice as I was within the org chart there, we actually have two different types of organization chart. One of them is your role chart. So actually who lives in what department, what roles are they? And of course, any role can have multiple members. Or you can look at your member chart. So this is actually who reports to who's the line manager, where the teams sit, and also see those responsibility lines as well. So that's your team member profile. Let's move swiftly on to the next, but I will keep an eye on the chat. So if you've got any thoughts, any questions, then please feel free to contribute into that as well. So the second thing we're going to cover today, okay, Emily, we'll address that as that's come up now. So Emily's asked, how can we change the tags from between the roles? So basically, when you look at this, if you go onto a role, you'll be able to see that the roles have the responsibilities, and then they also have the tags. So you can either create a new tag or pull from any of your existing tags. And of course, you can then edit that tag if you wanted to make a change to it, change the color, whatever that may be. The reason why we have tags on roles rather than on the individual members is because it essentially enables us to make sure that we know who a bit more about that specific role, that specific type. Whereas in the individual members, we don't currently have tags, so they are essentially a separate chart. So let's now just jump back into our second update. So I'm just looking at Emily's thing there. So not all people under role have the same tag. Yeah, so that really is because the role has the tag rather than the people. If you did have something where the tags were different, so perhaps you had a separate location, then you can either have both of those tags on the one role, or of course have the two separate roles dependent on the location or however your org is structured. So if that doesn't fully answer your question, Emily, we'll definitely circle back to that later on. I'd love to get more of your feedback to see what we can be talking about on our next update. So let's look at the shots improvements. So for those of you who are not familiar, shots is basically Waybook's SOP capture tool. So it essentially enables you to capture the SOP, the training, to really increase the ease and efficiency of being able to store that information in a really easy way. Now, what it essentially is the capture tool works on any browser-based interface, but the improvements have been done to basically make sure that it's easy to complete that SOP just by doing the work once. And now we can capture a much wider range of content from your kind of browser-based activities. So some of the key specific changes are if you're looking to share some information on perhaps how to use a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet, now what you're able to do is capture all of the table formats, the formulas, the formatting, and essentially make it really easy to ultimately capture the SOPs and document and delegate that work very easily. So that is available via the Shots browser extensions, which are available within any of your extensions store. And we'll also link that after this to make sure that if you don't have Shots enabled, then it's very easy for you to get that. Now, to give you a quick view on how that works, let me just go back into this browser. Now, let's forget for just a moment that I'm on Waybook, because of course you can be on any of your tools, any of your sites, any of your internal content. And what we can do here is we can go to Shots. It will automatically sign in with your Waybook account, and we can then start recording. So again, let's pretend I'm on a Google Sheet or something else. And I want to share with you how you update your profile settings. So we can click here, you can go to personal settings, you can change your avatar, you can click here. And what you'll see is it will screenshot what we're clicking, creating the relevant title, highlighting where we're clicking, And once we finish recording that SOP, it will then pull that into a step-by-step process, which we can then either add some additional content and either import or actually embed that directly within your Waybook account. So if you've not used Shots before, it's a really great tool to make it much easier. And now with the improvements which have gone out this month, it makes it much easier to capture a much broader range of content and information. So let's now move on to our third update. Sorry, just Matt's got a question on that. So does Shot just capture the active screen and not the background? That's correct, Matt. Yeah, so if you are moving between tabs, then it will actually follow you between those different tabs, but it will basically focus on the work that you're doing. So yes, you can have multiple things up and jump between things, and it will always capture all of that. But the purpose of this is really to say, this is how we do this process, this procedure, and give that step-by-step instruction. Amazing. So the third thing that has changed and is out in your Waybook account is the enhanced confirmation step. So many of you already use these across your account. It's really a great way for us to easily capture acceptance, confirmation, or agreement to any of your relevant documents. So you might have your tests within a document, but the next step might be to actually increase that level of compliance by getting somebody to confirm, accept, or agree. Now, we've heard from many of you that actually you wanted to increase that level of compliance for people taking that action. And part of this might be from a compliance perspective, but also some of this might be just to bring more attention to your team members that they are really confirming and accepting that. So the change that has been made is now that that confirmation step will still live as part of a document, but the big difference is that that can now require a name signature submission. So that exists now, it's available in all of your accounts. A confirmation step is a pro feature, so it's available on all of your pro accounts. And you can enable that ability to add the additional level of signing once you're creating a knowledge confirmation step. So I'm just going to jump back into that Waybook and show you how you would create this. So if I go into any of these documents, let's look at the company history document, and I will go into the edit mode. I'll just delete this because there's already one there. So we've got this information here. Yes, we might want to add a test in. So let's just add those tests within there. For a lot of documents, then this is really a great level of tracking, because not only will you see that somebody's completed the document, you'll also see that they've confirmed that information. It's automatically created those multiple choice questions. Now, if we wanted to create that confirmation step, it will default to basically being an agree. So by clicking the agree button, I acknowledge that I have read and understood the content. What do you want to show on that checkbox, and actually what's the submit button text? Now you can of course change this. So I agree or I confirm, and we can change this to confirm. Now all of this is the same. The big change here is that you can then require the signature. So if you require the signature, I'm just going to publish that change, and then I'll go into the reader version of that document. You'll see here that that knowledge confirmation step will be the text what I want. I can click, but in order to do the double confirmation, I now need to type my name, and that has to be exactly their name based on their Waybook setting. So only that will actually confirm that step and mean that I have the fully tracked and compliant version of that sign off. So that is the amendment there with that enhanced confirmation step. I know we've seen lots of people use this already who are already using confirmation step, but if you're not using confirmation step, then that could be a great one to chuck in. Typically, we don't see these used on all documents because obviously the markers complete and the tests are a great way of confirming that information. But what we do also see is that on particular sensitive policies or procedures where there really can't be mistakes, people like to have that additional level of tracking and compliance. So now let's move on to the final two updates, which we're going to be covering in today's call. The first one is the improved poll results. So those of you who were here last month, or in fact, if you've already seen the releases on the emails or in your Waybook account, you'll notice that actually we've launched polls that can go across your organization to really get that finger on the pulse. So you can easily get a pulse check on thoughts, on feelings, on feedback, on various different things. Now, what we wanted to do is make it much easier for you to manage the results of those polls. So the big change this month has actually been the ability to see the poll results, not just when someone's filling out the poll, but actually in your edit and management mode as well. So it's a really simple view where you can see those poll results, even if you remove the poll, close entries, you can always have that historic view of what has been done and what's been submitted. Now, the way you access this, it is available in all of your accounts and it's accessible within the organizations tab and under polls. So let's head back into this account now and we'll jump directly into where that is. So firstly, whilst we're on the dashboard view, this is where your team will see both the polls and the news. So here we've got a pinned news article. You can also pin polls and you'll basically see some of the previous polls which I've voted on. This is closed, so I can't change my vote. But if we go into organization where we manage this, we can now go down to polls or go onto that summer party location. And even though this is an old poll which has been closed, we can always see that nice view of what's been done and also the results across that poll. So that is the tweak within that. We've had some really great feedback on people using polls, and we're actually seeing the people that are using polls are using a lot of polls. So we know that that's becoming really useful to kind of keep that more dynamic back and forth with your team within your Waybook. Now, the final thing we're going to cover today is a small update to the news feature. So similar to polls, news has been released in the last 4 weeks, which basically means that you can now share organizational updates across the business that will sit within the dashboard and also available to your team within the organization settings. So this is great to keep everybody up to date. It also means that you can use Waybook a little bit like an intranet. So instead of sending Slack and Teams messages that get lost, you can kind of have all of that consolidated within your single source of truth. Something that might not be an organizational email, but something that you want kind of stored within your organization memory. Now, what we have done is had the ability for people to give reactions to it, and we've seen that a lot of people that are launching news articles are just getting these thumbs up, these kind of medals, the smiley faces, whatever that may be. And actually, that's been a really positive change for people to make sure that they're getting, making sure people are seeing this and having that sense of engagement across the news you're sharing. So the key thing here is that members can now provide those reactions, but also you can see specifically who has provided what reactions on those articles as well. So a relatively small thing, but I know people who are using news have seen a lot of value within this. So again, this is available in all accounts, and you can see that within your organization and within your news section. So if I head back into the account now, I'm already in organization, so we can go to news. What you'll notice is because I'm in an admin account, I also have members and groups. And because we have an org chart enabled, I see org chart. For your team members that don't have that ability, they're not an admin, they're not a manager, they won't be able to see the members or the groups. They'll only see org chart if an org chart is enabled. So they'll come straight to news and polls, which is almost like your organization hub. So if we go into one of these articles, we see we've got some of these reactions. Now, if I go into the edit mode and look into the reactions, we can specifically see who's done what. So it kind of gives us a bit of a sense of who's engaging more or less with our content as we move across. So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us, oh, Emily, yeah, so great question there. What about notifications for news? It is coming. It is coming very soon. So currently your news will be put within your dashboard. Very soon that will be rolled up into your summary notifications. When somebody does release a news article, there is a notification within Waybook. So their notification center will have a +1. It will also have a notification in their dashboard. But in terms of sending out on a app push notification or on your email, that will be coming soon. And yes, Emily, you're absolutely right. That will be an increased way to drive more traffic to your Waybook rather than just telling them to kind of complete documents. What we do see, and the reason why news and polls have gone in, is really to keep Waybook more front of mind for your team members, because as soon as your team know that they can ask and answer questions as easier than asking somebody else within the team, that's really when Waybook takes lift within an organization. So bringing people into this more is super, super useful. The other thing, by the way, as a side note on that, what we've seen some teams do really successfully is if you have device management at an organization level, a lot of people are setting the default loading page of the browser. So every time you open a new browser, either on Chrome or whatever that may be, set that default to actually be your logged in Waybook view. And what that's done is it means that every time somebody's starting, they're starting with your information. It's encouraging people to use the AI ask and really contribute to the knowledge-centric culture within a business. So what we're working on is, yes, notifications in news and polls, but we're also working, and this is very soon to be released, is recurring deadlines. So ultimately what recurring deadlines will be is we have a document, perhaps it's a policy or it's a procedure or it's a health and safety guidelines. And we know that many users want people to look at this every month or every year or every 2 years. Now, of course, you can manage that from an admin perspective. You can set the reminder or set the verification that the owner of the document comes in to confirm it's still up to date. But recurring deadlines is from a reader perspective. So we set the policy, we know people need to look at it every year, and you just put in a due date, recur it every year, and that will just mean that the whole team is always up to date and always tracks and compliant. The other key thing that we're working on at the moment is gamification and achievement. So we're just about to roll out, probably in about 2 weeks, achievements across the board. And again, to Emily's point, this encourages more usage from your Waybook, your team on Waybook. It basically supports positive use, so number of searches, number of documents completed, getting through their learning paths, and we have some increased gamification and achievement badges, which they will be getting access to as well. So that brings us to the end. We are, of course, working on lots of other stuff. And as many of you regulars will know, that we are very, very driven by exactly what you're saying, what you're asking for, what you're feeding back. So if you have any thoughts, if you've got any questions, if you've got any feedback, please do reach out to any of the team here at Waybook. We truly love speaking with you and hearing everything that you've got to say. So definitely don't be a stranger. And I know people come here regularly because if they've got a request, they see it in the next month, and that's something we're incredibly excited about as well. So I'm just heading to the chat. If you've got any thoughts or questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll kind of run through a couple of the questions that we've got now. So Emily, you said that can there be a recently published or added to Waybook notification section to the weekly summary? Yes, that can be good. Elle is here in the background, so I'm sure Elle, if we can record that, because obviously within your Waybook, you do see on the dashboard all of those notifications. Sorry, all of those recently published and recently viewed documents. Of course, all of your team members will get a notification if they get access to a new document, or if a document that requires completion has an update. So that is automatically baked and done within Waybook. It will be in their email, it will be in their weekly summary, but we will always look to improve that. Lisa, hello. You've said, can the badges be individualized per organization? So can you set the criteria, and will they be able to be shared on social media? Love it, Lisa. I love it. So the custom badges is a V2, so that will not be in this first release, which is coming out in a couple of weeks, but it is definitely already on our roadmap from speaking with within the team and also to other users. Can they be shared on social media? Currently, no, but I love the fact that you've asked that, and that's definitely something that we will look at and we will do. The other side thing that we're not actively working on at the moment, but is in our roadmap relatively soon, sorry, is certificates. So you will then be able to say, if somebody completes these 3 or 4 documents, passes these tests, does whatever else, that will then issue them a certificate. So you can actually say health and safety compliant or marketing compliant or whatever that may be. So that's also something that kind of lives within that world, but obviously will look and feel very different for your teams on your Waybook. So some great questions, great feedback there. Thank you so much. If there's any other thoughts or questions, now is the time. But if not, I'd like to thank you all so much for joining me once again. It's been a relatively short session today. So if this is your first, sometimes I do go on a little bit more and go deeper into some other features. But until next time, I wish you all an amazing day, week, and month. And I hope until we next see each other, we all enjoy some smooth scaling. Have a great one, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care now.